Hey everyone, and welcome to the live weekly webinar, the 10K in 30-day live weekly webinar. I am your host, Vanessa Simpkins from TakeYourPowerBackNow.com. And today you are in for a special treat. We have an amazing guest, Diane. We're talking about how to uncover your soul's purpose in the Akashic Records. If you've been wondering, what are these Akashic Records? What do they have to tell me about my purpose? You know, how can we use them to get over our own inner blocks to really expanding into our soul's purpose? You are in the right place. We're going to have an amazing conversation. And before we get started, and before I introduce you to Diane from wisdomoftheakashics.com, she's an amazing spiritual, intuitive healer. She reads the Akashic Records. She's got a ton of things for us to learn here today. And I'm really interested because it's not an area I'm super familiar with. I want to make sure that before we dive in, hey, Michelle and Carolyn, please type in the chat box. Let me know that all this amazing technology is working. Let's start with that. I know there are a ton of people here joining us. Some of us are here live in the Hangout. A lot of you guys are on Facebook, not Facebook, I mean YouTube Live. So that is awesome. And you're joining us here today with our guest, Diane Lang. She's going to share with you, how to answer with certainty the question, what did I come here for? Like, what did I come here to this earth plane existence for? And what your soul is really here to do in this physical experience, how to clean and clear your old agreements and vows that are holding you back from your soul's purpose. We're going to talk about, she's going to share with you 3 keys to unleash your inner goddess and step into full vibrational alignment with the energies of love and abundance. Who doesn't want more of that, right? So today we're talking about how to uncover your soul's purpose and get crystal clear on what's keeping you back from living your best life. And I'm really, really excited to introduce you to the amazing Diane Lang. Welcome, Diane.
Hello, Vanessa. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I really want to just take one quick second and thank Vanessa for this experience, this opportunity today. You've been such a shining light in my experience since I met you and went into your coaching program last year. And I can absolutely, without question, I attribute this moment to that moment. So thank you very much for that. It was an amazing decision for me to make, to step up and go to work with you. So if anybody's thinking of doing that, I absolutely, Vanessa's amazing at what she does. So I'm going to just give everybody a really quick snapshot of myself in regards to, why I'm here doing what I'm doing today and how the Akashic Records came into my life. Really, it started out for me, and I was just chatting with Vanessa before, is I started out on my journey at a very, very young age. And when you're at 20 and you're realizing like there's just more to what this experience is, my religion didn't support my beliefs. So I went on a journey of, defining my own version of God, what my soul was here to experience. I always believed that we had more than one lifetime, which didn't fit into like I said, the religious and family structure and stuff like that. But I just thought there's no way we get one kick at the cat. Like it just never fit in my brain. So I always went journeying. And then I did a lot of different things. I studied Reiki and quantum healing and geotran and all sorts of different things, always in self-development programs, self-awareness programs, diving into the law of attraction and all of that. And that was really formulating my beliefs. I was really working through that. It was getting into my 30s and my 40s. And then I had a big wake-up call. And my wake-up call came actually through the experience of being diagnosed with breast cancer. So that's another story. We won't get deep dived into that today. But really what happened then was I thought, wow, this is happening to me. First of all, one of the things I realized, and this is something I teach very deeply in the programs that I do and when I work with clients, is it really started here in the mindset. Because I decided, I was literally walking across the parking lot to my car after this, and I was like, I get one muscle that I get to complete control over, and it's my mind, and I'm going to use it, and I'm going to survive this, and I'm going to come out of it, and I'm going to have experiences that change my life. And I really step into what it is. I figured if I'm going to survive this, I really want to stay on path with why I came here. I felt that was the message God was giving to me. So I went through that, and then I did really well through it, and then I was diagnosed again, and I was like, whoa, what didn't I get? Like, wow. And I remember that I wasn't allowed to stay in a counseling program because they said that I couldn't talk about my cancer in the context that I'd attracted it. And it was like, I was like, so if I stay a victim, I can stay here and you'll pay for it, because in Canada it was covered in our Canadian healthcare system. And they're like, well, we don't really like that you put it that way, but yes. So I was like, well, then you guys aren't going to support this journey in the way I want to look at it. So again, exercising that muscle. Then in the second time, that's when the Akashic Records came to me. And I was like, it's like how something happens, you'll hear something, and then in 2 days, you'll hear it 3-4 times, and it's like, the Akashic Records, what are the Akashic Records? And it was like, it's the place where your soul story is held. And it was like being given a Christmas present, because I remember thinking, I knew it. I absolutely knew there was a place, that there was going to be a story about me and my soul and my other incarnations, because these were beliefs that I already held at a very, very deep level. So I went searching for the Akashic Records. So I studied how to read them. I studied soul alignment. I'm certified in the soul realignment certification. And then I took the advanced levels. And in actuality, the Akashic Records they're such a valuable, veritable fountain of information that's soul specific. So when we dive into them, you get really definitive information about your soul. You learn about what your gifts are, what theme did you come here to experience in this lifetime, what your blocks and restrictions are. And blocks and restrictions are the things that are keeping us from it. Like Vanessa said, am I hanging on to some sort of unrighteous contract, something along that line? What is that all about? So when I started to do that, that's when I realized that that's a lot of what my wake-up calls were about, because I was really going to just go back to work as a secretary. I was an executive secretary. I'd finally got the best job I'd ever gotten, all the way to the president. I had the best paycheck I'd ever gotten in my life. Benefits, downtown parking spot in Calgary, all those things that I'd shot for 30 years. And then I started in March, and in June, my boss came to me and he said, you don't even look like the same person I hired. I had started to get sick again. I was driving 13 hours, not driving, but back and forth. It took me 13 hours of my day, close back and forth travel, including lunch hour, to get an 8-hour paycheck. So I was going down. I was burning out really badly after my second cancer. And I just thought, that's it. I cannot do this anymore. I walked away from my job, very proud that I got it, very sad that I was walking away from it. And that's when I realized, no, I'm not fulfilling the purpose that I came here for.
Can anyone else here relate? Like, type in the chat box if you're like doing something, you're like, wait a minute, this is really not my purpose. Let us know.
I would imagine that it's going to show up for a lot of people, because certainly people that reach out to me and come to me and that I work with, coach, and read their records, it's actually it's that running theme, Vanessa. It's almost always there. I'm doing this, but it doesn't feel purposeful to the degree that I feel like my soul is inspired in it. I'm soul inspired in what I do. And that's actually what I work with people. That's the greatest joy I get out of working with the clients, is because we really get down to the guts of what soul inspired thing do you want to do while you're here. And so that's just kind of the overview, why I got to where I got. And then I realized I got to step on path. I have to be in the spiritual realm. I have to be teaching. I've always been intuitive. I realize I'm a spiritual psychic, and people say, what is a spiritual psychic? And it's like, I really hold spiritual messages for people. There's very different ways to tap into our psychic, which we all have. It's really just really heightened intuition, and then a conduit for people's messages is really what I get. But I find that I focus on people's spiritual messages. It's what I get. So I don't do a lot of stuff in the realms of, am I going to meet a man and what's he going to look like? My question would be, well, I don't know. Are you open to reading him? Is your heart ready to receive him? What would you like him to be? And, if you tell somebody you're going to meet a guy with blonde hair and blue eyes, and he shows up with brown hair and brown eyes, like that, I caution anybody that actually does that for readings, because I'm thinking, I don't want to plant seeds like that in people's heads. So I get them, what is the essence of the man that you want to receive? And where are you at in your heart to receive him? So I read in a very different manner than a lot of people that would say, come to a psychic. So, and I was very gifted in it. And I've talked to Vanessa about this, is, you know, when I was stepping into this path and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to call myself a psychic or an intuitive. I like literally could almost just like, it was a very nerve-wracking thing to start to let come out of my mouth very naturally.
To own it.
Yeah, to own it. And that's one of the things that, you know, I had gotten to a certain point before I met you, but, you know, it's like taking it and just grounding it when you actually step into the work. No, this is what I'm doing. I'm not going to get sidetracked by my job. I'm not, you know, it's not to say you go quit it by any means, but you say, what is it? You know, we look at the records and we say, what is it that you really came here to do? What is it you want to do? How do you want to be soul expressed? And then how to move from that job to that soul expression. And it could be in the healing arts or anything like that. I work really closely with a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs. And in Vanessa's group, we talk about this a lot because spiritual entrepreneurship is very different. I always talk to people, you know how we don't get to go home with a haircut? You know, we don't get a TV, we don't get our car fixed. So it's etheric, it's transformation. People come to people like Vanessa and I for transformation. And there's really no dollar value you can attach to that. And, you know, it's something that I really learned when I went to work with you. I was like, this isn't about paying somebody. This is about investing in somebody. And it was investing in myself when I chose to go to work with you. And like I said, what a fabulous decision it's been.
Yeah, and how many people you've been able to help with your gift. So I'm really excited. There are like a ton of people on here. I think we have like 55 people here live. We've got a ton. I mean, there's just a ton of people chatting here in the chat box. I'm so happy that you're all joining us. You're welcome. And please post your questions for Diane concerning, you know, concerning the Akashic Records or your soul's purpose. And we'll get to these here, you know, we'll go through them during the call. But I know that, Diane, you've got some amazing information to share with us specifically. You know, how can people, you know, answer with certainty that question? Like, what did I come here for? And why don't we start there?
I'm going to actually just start a little bit in front of that. Because first of all, what I want people to do is understand, a lot of people, the biggest thing is what actually are the Akashic Records. Mm-hmm. And so when we know that and we know where they're held, first of all, they're held in the etheric realms. So they're not something that we can go to the library and go look up myself and get my book, so to speak. Because a lot of people think, what do you mean there's a record? It's when you're birthed into the universe, you're birthed as an energetic signature vibration, and a record is opened on your behalf. So all your incarnations are held there, all your choices, your decisions, your consequences, all the experience of every incarnation is held in that book. So I like to consider them like they're like an energetic database. And this is the most common way that I explain them that I feel resonates for people. So I'll just give you one quick overview of that. Look at your computer. Your computer has a hard drive. That's the basis of the computer. We don't see it, but we know it's there. And the hard drive is actually what's holding the information. It's running the programs and it's holding the programs. It's where you get to open a file, save a file, delete a file, or change a file. And that's exactly what we do in Akashic Records and Soul Realignment. We go in there, it's a database. You've created an experience, for example, your incarnation is a file, so it's a book within the books kind of thing, and it's going to tell us stuff. We get to go in there and we can actually clear stuff inside of that. So it's very much like the computer. I really like this part of this discussion that I want to have, but I don't want that part there anymore. I don't want to hold on to that contract. I'm not willing to, I'm going to rescind this vow. I'm not willing to have this experience any longer. So for example, if you hold a vow of poverty and it shows up in your records, we get this information in the readings and it shows up in your records, it's really like, it can be the foundational reason, no matter what you're doing, you're actually still not able to create an experience of abundance with money because you've agreed at some level, and it might have even been what you chose to do in a lifetime, and it served you to stay information. You know, you may have lived in that lifetime in poverty to have some sort of experience to, maybe appreciate gratitude and abundance and something like that. So that's kind of getting a little bit specific. But so look at it as the computer. The computer has the hard drive, which is the book of record. And then within the hard drive is what's operating. And we get to go in there and we'd say, what's going on with her? What's happening? Why is this happening? Why is there a repetitive story about never being able to, come into alignment with money? Or the minute I get it, my car breaks down. That's the law of attraction, cause and effect, because basically we are vibrating, we're carrying a vibration of lack. And so we talk a lot, Vanessa, in your course and in my teachings too, about really what you have to do is recognize where you're at vibrationally. And this is something I work with a lot of people, but it's like we still want to know what is the story that's holding us in that vibration. Because so many people say, I've been practicing the law of attraction. I do visualizations. I do this and do that. And they still are not coming up out of that experience. So that's part of what you would get in actual Akashic record reading. That's one aspect of it. The other part is this incredibly beautiful part that says who you are, what your divine gifts are. Your divine gifts are the ingredient that you're most made up of. Like it's like, I look at it, this is the other way. So if we have what we call 8 divine gifts that we recognize in the Akashic records. And within those, let's say there's a piece of pie that has 8 pieces in it. 50% of that pie is going to be your main ingredients. That's your juicy sauce. That's your soul specific to you. This is your divine ingredients. And then you have 6 other pieces that make up the rest of you. So we all have a little bit in it of us, but we have something that we actually carry our true divinity in. We get told that in the records. When you actually get that information and then you put that information into play, well, at the same time, releasing these vows and these contracts and, unjustified karma and all of that stuff that shows up in there, that's when you really start to say, this is where you get truly soul expressed, because we may be over here doing something like a secretary, which I was really good at, and I don't regret any of that, but I wasn't using my greatest gifts. I was pushing my psychic to the background. I was pushing my intuition to the background. I wasn't making it part of my experience. It wasn't part of how I got paid. It wasn't.
And so life becomes like really intense, right? Your purpose is going to knock on your door, man. You better answer the door. Otherwise, life is going to get intense, going to make you freaking, that's when you have a wake-up call. Listen, we've got a ton of questions. We've got questions about what are these 8 divine gifts? Elizabeth, Celia's asking, Carol's asking, how do these records fit into Christianity? Do we need to believe that we may live many lives for it to work? Celia is saying, I have a strong presence of a new guide that's around this month. Is there and is here so really pushing me forward to my true life? Is this part of what she's speaking about? Angela's saying, I have a new business. I have a massive dream and belief that great things are in my future, but it seems that I'm going through a season of financial strain. I feel stuck, but still have so much belief. Any suggestion? Lots and lots of great questions here, guys.
That I'm so amazed. I'm just so amazed. And those questions that's exactly the type of information that we work with all of the time. To get specific about what the divine gifts are and stuff like that's a conversation for an actual session. Or I actually do offer sessions where I do discovery sessions so we can have a discussion about the Akashic records and then determine if they're a good fit for you and then go into working together. So I'm not going to get too specific about the divine gifts and stuff like that, but that's the information that you have. The records will hold that information for you. One of the things I can tell you is when I read somebody's records and I discuss these gifts with them, it's just a consistent moment after moment of, oh my God, oh, my whole life I've thought, oh, that makes so much sense. It's kind of like, aha, aha, aha. They just happen over and over and over again. So all of that information does get held in the story, and that's what we do when we get into an actual reading. And when I get into a reading, I do need personal information from you and permission to enter your records. That's what we do in spiritual integrity. And we don't ever go into somebody else's records either, because people will reach out and say, can you read my boyfriend's records? No, not without his permission. If people live together, there's a difference, because there's an energetic story that's taking place, right? When we live with someone, they actually have a big impact on us. All of that stuff, like if there's something that is a particular relationship, for me, again, we can look at that in the records. But those are the types of questions that, they'll come into everything that I do, no matter what it is, who I'm working for. We're all individual snowflakes. That's why you can't get real specific on a call like this or anything like that. But that's the beauty of them. They hold all that information. And then if we are carrying some sort of agreement that no longer serves our highest good, and trust me, if it shows up in the records, and it shows up, it's a block, it's a restriction, it means it's not serving your highest good. Because sometimes our ego goes, oh, no, but I still want to hang on to that one. And it's like, that's choice. And that's when we get really discussing choice and consequence, because all of our choices have consequences. And so I hope that it's okay that I'm not getting specific to answer the individual questions, but the idea is that really look at it as everything that you've ever done, ever experienced, ever thought, ever been afraid of, ever chose, has an energetic effect on the story you're living right now. And most of us are just not aligned with what it is we came here for. For one, you absolutely do not need to believe in reincarnation. But then if I start to talk to you about in this lifetime, and we don't believe we've had other lifetimes, what happens is the brain just shuts down. Oh, this really isn't, I don't even know why I'm here. So I would say it's not a requirement, but typically my clients don't come to me without at least thinking or open to, yes, they have had other experiences in other lifetimes, because if you don't believe that, the Akashic Records probably really aren't of interest. They wouldn't be for someone. Does it have anything to do with religion? No, it's based on your spiritual story. It's your soul level story. Religion is something that's based on the incarnation. So right now when you're born into Catholic, that's not your soul. That's incarnation specific information. So it doesn't actually apply to the Akashic Records. What I can tell you, a very common thread through most of the people I work with is they'll say, my feelings around my religion don't really support me. I grew up in the Catholic religion where at a very young age, I realized, geez, they just want us to be afraid of God about everything. And what would boy want to be afraid of God for, and I just didn't believe I would be judged at the level. It was sinner, it was all about that. It was all about, doing everything wrong. And I came from a family that had a divorce very early in life. And back then it was not common. It wasn't very seen. It was really looked at, like in the church, it was like, no, you don't do that. And I saw my mother, this is actually what shaped my belief, was I saw my mother, who had been a massive person in the church. Our family literally practically built the church, like physically built the church, my dad and some other businessmen. And so when my mom divorced, she basically wasn't allowed communion anymore. She had to go to the back of the church, more or less. And I just remember thinking, there is no way my God would do that to my mom. No way, no way, no way, no way. Not when she needed him. So I decided, I was probably 13 or 14 years old. I decided, no, I get to pick my God. I'm going to pick one that supports my belief. I'm going to pick one that loves me no matter what, that's going to love my mom no matter what, that will always be there for us. And that set me on that path. That's why I say I was a very young age. I started looking for spiritual information. And that's when there was a bookshelf, like literally. You go to the store and there's a shelf. There was a few like old teachings, Edgar Casey or different people like that, Neville Goddard, some of the ones that we talk about. But there wasn't really much there yet compared to, now there's bookstores. Look at the internet. Look at all of us that are searching to, align with who we really are, our soul, our light, and all of that stuff.
This is a really interesting conversation, and I'm so happy that you're here sharing all this wisdom and juju with us, Diane. So I'll keep a run-on eye here on some of the questions. I don't want to distract you from where you're going. You shared about the Akashic Records, that they are these etherical, kind of a hard drive for your soul, and what's really inside your soul story, that you can change them. You can go in there, you can delete parts of the story you don't like. You can, delete vows, or, in my language, what we call like a subconscious block. You can delete these limiting beliefs. What else? This is new for me. I'm like, how do you go in and actually like, how do you find those? How do you access these? Is it like through a meditative process? Is that what you're trained to do?
Yes, it's part the way that I've been trained and studied and was basically we enter the records with your information. You call in who you were born under, the birth name that you're born under, where you were born. We call it up. We call in your Akashic record guides to assist. The Akashic records are open to me. I'm basically shown a book. We always go in there in reverence, and I want to stress this. And that means we're going in there to learn about our soul. We don't go in there through ego or curiosity, or I don't go in there through ego. And ego would be, oh, but was I a princess in some lifetime? And, did people lavish me? And I feel like, well, guess what? There are only so many people, for example, if you say like, well, was I Cleopatra? That's very ego-based question to ask if you were ego, like if we were Cleopatra. I've heard so many people say, oh, I had somebody tell me I was Cleopatra in another lifetime. I'm like, wow, well, there are parallel realities, so maybe that's true. Maybe there are 1,000 Cleopatras out there. But the reason I talk about this is we go there in reverence. We go there in reverence to the ascended masters that watch over them. We go there in reverence and say, I'm here to expand and grow from this information, not feed myself egoically. To think that, and the other thing about the records, when we see those blocks and restrictions come up, I really, really, really stress with people, we never, ever bring shame or blame into the story. Because I will tell you stuff and say, in some lifetime, you made this decision, this choice that then had this consequence, and it's got enough of an energetic frequency for you that it's still playing out for you in this lifetime. And we'll be like, oh, I couldn't have done that. And it's like, we're human. We absolutely, everyone makes mistakes. We all make choices that lead us either towards our divine nature or from our divine nature. And this is kind of an extreme example, but I say somebody dropped the guillotine. That soul is out there. And that will have an impact on that soul, that somebody actually was the one that let the knife go. And so that soul has that in their story, which could be extremely painful to hear when we talk about what the blocks and restrictions are. So there's never, ever, ever shame or blame in them. Shame or blame are the things that actually got us there in the first place. When we're holding on to a program of sacrifice or suffering or not worthiness or anything like that, that's the program that's running. So we don't do anything to perpetuate it. We just say, wow, I just totally want to move this out of my way now. And I'm beautiful soul, worthy and deserving of doing that. And when we do, and what happens, there's an interlying thread that runs through 3 areas of our life. Every soul has the same one: our money, our relationships, and our health. And when you work on one area, you can just by naturally start to change and affect another area. If one of them is out of alignment, both or all 3 will be out. 2 or 3 will all be out of alignment. So some people say, I was working on my relationship and money started showing up. We talk about this just through the law of attraction, right? And it's like, that's because you're cleaning up the story, period. And it can have those effects that you're not even focusing on.
You're talking a lot about, decisions and choices and how to look at, your concept of yourself and how to look at your stories. I know that you have, this is amazing information. I know that you have a free goodie for people. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? And I'll put the link here in the chat box for everyone.
Absolutely. On my website, or actually, wisdomoftheakashic.com/choices is the link that you go get. It's a free audio. And what that audio discusses, so that's wisdomoftheakashic.com/choices. What that does, it helps you understand there's a massive, massive difference between a decision and a choice. And most people, when you hear it for the first time, they'll think, well, what is the difference between a decision and a choice? It's actually huge. It's life-changing in and of itself when we realize our decisions they're like at the mental level. I'm going to have something healthy for supper tonight. That's a decision. And then the choice is to go eat a giant bowl of ice cream. So the consequence and the impact of what happens actually comes from the choice, not the decision. So when we take responsibility at the level of choice, we totally impact the consequence. The consequence we tend to think of as something negative. Oh, if I'm experiencing a consequence, something bad happened. If I'm having a lesson, it's like, whoa, we don't go, oh my God, I had this most amazing lesson today. We go, fuck, excuse me. So we go, well, that was a tough lesson. We tend to think of it as something tough, and it's really it's the same straight across the board. We have fabulous lessons and consequences. We have challenging and difficult lessons and consequences. It's just about what are you doing with them, and then get into conscious creation about how you want to take responsibility from them. It's all about accountability, self-accountability and stuff. And one of the things I want to make sure that we get to, Vanessa, is that when we talk about those things, that the purpose of why we came here, it's really way different than people think. A lot of people think I have a really set purpose as to why I came to the earth. Really what we came here to do is we came here to learn, grow, and expand through choice and consequence. That's actually what we came here for.
To become conscious creators.
To become conscious creators, exactly. It's not about I'm meant to be a teacher, I'm meant to be a Akashic record guide. Those are the things, that's what happens when you align with the gift that you came here with. That you express yourself through the gift, but the purpose is to learn through choice and consequence. I learned that the choices I was making, led to me having a wake-up call of cancer. I don't want the wake-up call of cancer. I started making different choices. And my first cancer diagnosis was actually 9 years ago in a matter of days, to the month of February, 9 years ago. And I'm like, excuse me, but look at me now. I mean, I not only survived it, I mean, I have just grown and expanded and become, I think I look healthier than I have in years. I feel better than I have in years. And I attribute that to that I stepped on purpose. I stepped onto my purpose, which was to take responsibility, be accountable, use my gifts, put them out there into the world, trust that I can be rewarded and paid for them, and that it's actually meant to be that way. It's a good thing, because I really came from a paradigm for a long time where if you could help people with a gift, that you should give it away. That's actually 1000% a poverty program. And if you're running it, that's something you want to work on, because it's literally, it is. It's just a poverty program. If you have a gift, that's actually what you're meant to do. And you're meant to be rewarded for it. And you're meant to be rewarded for it because it creates the rest of the life that you want, the experience of having money in your life based on a gift you're bringing to the world. Versus I'm over here doing this because I'm comfortable with my paycheck. And I'm comfortable, I get my benefits, I get my security, and that's all fabulous. There's no judgment in it. It's just, if it's not what your soul inspired to do, guess what shows up? A bunch of crap that's going on, drama that's always running in the background, coworkers that are sucking the life force out of us, a relationship that we just feel like we're absolutely stuck in all of the time. So I hope that's answering the questions. I know I can get talking and probably off topic to some degree, but
all of it is fantastic. We have lots of questions here. We have a lot of questions. I want to make sure that you're able to share what you wanted to share. So far we've uncovered. We talked about how how to answer that question, what you came here for, what your soul is really here to do in this experience. Why don't we explore kind of how to clean and clear some of these old agreements and the vows? How does that happen?
Yes, awesome. There's a couple different ways. You can do all of this to a certain degree. Anybody can call forth and clear vows and stuff like that. What we want to do is, and when I read Akashic Records, we get very specific ones that you're running, and they're ones that are affecting present lifetime. So we do it in a few different ways. One of them, when I work with somebody for 21 days afterwards, and this is recommended, nobody can choose to do it but yourself. It's recommended. We have some statements that we make. They take 8 or 10 minutes a day. And I tell people, seriously, you're worth it. And that's what we're not asking for 2 hours. We're not asking for total. It's just a pattern of changing. We make these statements where we are telling the universe, I'm not accepting this soul contract anymore. I'm rescinding this vow. I'm returning this information. I'm no longer going to have a compassionate connection with somebody. These are connections that we create out of compassion, but they're actually stealing our life force, things like that. So that's one way, is we really have to make sure the universe, and I think all of us that understand the law of attraction and that we want to make changes, we can't just say something once and then have it affect, all of a sudden we get a completely different outcome in life. Most of us spent a long time creating this, and it's no different. We have to take a certain amount of time to come back out of it. So we have homework that we do, that I actually work with when I go into the Akashic Records with somebody. The second part of this is actually even more important, is the choices that you start making are in alignment with the rescinding of that vow, for example. So if I'm in a vow of poverty, I am going to start making choices about abundance. I'm going to start thinking abundantly. I'm going to start making choices that serve my soul abundantly. I'm going to start becoming in alignment with money. Is just an energy. People say money is evil. Money isn't evil. The way it can be used can support that, but it's the money itself is just an energy that's exchanged on the earth. So we do work in making sure that really what's happening, it's the level of doing that changes things. Is what are you doing? So the next time you get asked to, go out and you have very limited money, just one quick example is say, no, I can't afford that. That sentence will perpetuate your law of attraction of not being able to afford. Whereas when we just even shift our language and say, I really appreciate the invitation, but I won't be able to attend that with you. You then didn't tell the universe that you can't afford it. You just simply say, I appreciate the invitation, but it doesn't work for me that day. So those are the little conscious choices that we make. It's what we say, what we think, what we do is actually the foundation of releasing those agreements. That's the huge.
So making new, affirmations or new vows. And then step 2 is making choices based on those vows.
Absolutely.
So if you vowed that you are actually abundant and wealthy, you would go out and buy that new jacket or that $50 lipstick, because why the hell not? I love it. I'm in totally agreement with this.
Yes. And as you would know, it's sometimes it's like you have to open that door for any, I always say to people, how does anything get in, excuse me, a breath of fresh air cannot come in a closed window.
Yeah. It can be very scary for people at that step. When you look in your bank account, you have XYZ dollars to go out and spend. I'm going to spend $1,000 on this, or that's precisely what you need to do. How you feel, really how you feel, how that, that new silk scarf feels, or hiring that mentor that's outrageously expensive, or buying a ridiculous car. Obviously, don't put yourself into a ton of debt, but at the same time, what does that say about your belief in yourself? That you deserve this. And oftentimes that's the most important decision to make. I deserve that. Yeah, I can totally have that. Stop waiting for somebody else to give it to you. Start giving it to yourself. So I love that. So those are the first 2 keys. What's the third one?
Basically what you're going to be doing is you want to make sure that, so you've taken on that, you've allowed yourself to say, I'm not going to hold on to this vow anymore. I'm going to make conscious choices. I'm going to make sure my language, my thoughts, my feelings, and all of that are in alignment for it. One of the biggest things is the key to that real true inner goddess stuff is self-love. This is probably the number one thing where I find people are sitting literally we're not in self-love. We're still we're beating ourselves up for something. We know we have something important to do, but we don't feel like we can maybe live on it. We're not worthy of it. And I can tell you in my own story, when I really started to just do nothing but look in the mirror, which was a painful experience to begin with. I mean, I come from some really deep level soul pain right from my childhood and up, and decisions that I've made. And I think, why did I do that? And, staying in relationships that weren't serving my soul, and making decisions that just weren't in align with who I was, saying things that I didn't mean, and then you just run that program. And so it's like really, first of all, when you become self-loving, there's an outflow of then we become self-deserving. And we have to start with ourselves, So one of the things is, in women in particular, we're so used to taking the seat at the back of the bus. We're so used to being the last one in the equation. It's like all the pieces, everybody's needs are being met, but mine, and I'm finding that when people like 40 and over in particular, they're like starting to go, I'm so done with that program. I am so done putting everybody in my life first, particularly once the kids have come and gone. Husbands are going through and partners are going through this incredible experience on the earth right now. It's like, where did this empowered woman show up from? Because that's not the one that just raised my kids for 25 years. And so it's really about recognizing that we have to step to the front of the line. There is a reason on an airplane they tell you to put on your own oxygen mask first. They don't tell you to put your child's oxygen mask on first. They tell you to put your oxygen mask on first. And it's so you are present to then assist the child. When we're in burnout, when we're not doing what it is that we're supposed to be doing, when we're just running the job, running the kids, running, and we have no self-awareness, self-love, and we're not putting ourselves first. So that's just a huge, massive key, is everybody that comes to me, we start out with self-love. And if you're really far along the way, then we just go, okay, where do we go next from here? But I can tell you, it shows up hugely in almost everybody I work with. And sometimes we're just not even aware of it, but then when we start to really dig in and get questioning, well, what happens when you do this? Well, what happens when, I got to go to this thing and be obligated to show up for this experience, for example? Well, I got to go to my family's thing. Well, why do you have to go to your family's things? Well, because if I don't go, my husband's going to get mad at me. So what's going to happen if your husband gets mad at you? So what happens when you go there? Well, by 3 hours, everybody gets drunk and they starts the drama. So what are they like at 2 hours? Well, they're not too bad yet. What are they like at 1 hour? 1 hour is everybody great. So go for an hour. I can do that? Yeah, you can. You can choose it. And then you choose to stay out of that, the rest of that experience. And then that has an outcome. Then you leave. You didn't fight with anybody. You're not pissed off at your mother-in-law. All of that different stuff. But we got to get to the program that's thinking, I'm running a program of obligation. Why do you feel obligated to go to something that sucks the life force out of you?
Yeah, I would agree. A lot of people have that, needing others' approval. So the vow of obligation is how that is termed. So make new affirmations, resending the vows, choices in alignment with the vows, and a lot of self-love to continue making the right choices. People are loving this conversation, Diane. There's a bunch of questions. Before we get to them, I know that you have an offer for everyone. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that, and I can put the link in the chat box.
Well, I do free discovery sessions. So what that is, I call them free soul discovery sessions. They are meant for you and I to meet. We sit down, we spend about an hour on the phone. We talk about where you're at, how the Akashic Records will assist you, what program I offer, and then if we're a fit for each other. Because it's not for everybody. And I really like to make sure that when I work with somebody, that we're in alignment with each other. The teacher and the student really have to blend for me to learn from. And I can attribute to this when I met Vanessa. I was looking at several different programs, and I ended up on one of these discovery sessions with Vanessa. And it's why I chose her over choosing other ones, because I felt the fit. And now I can say, I've said earlier in the call, that it was amazing for me to make this choice. So we get to talk about where you're at and if the Akashic Records are for you, and then what program I have to put you in. So we read the records, and then there's a whole program. And those sessions, I do want to make sure people understand, they're not a reading and they're not a coaching session. They're a discovery session for us to meet, see if we're a great fit. And I know this can sound harsh to some people, but at the end of the day, when you're so self-expressed and you're picking and creating your own life, you also get to pick your clients, and that's actually a very abundant mentality to be able to know I can pick my clients. I don't have to just go to work with everybody. Or if I meet somebody on a call and I'm like, we're just not going to be a fit, I'm also want to make sure that everybody's experience is from abundance. And so I get to be part of that too. So it's really a way for me to meet you and also for you to meet me. But I feel like really it's about that. That win-win situation. That's what we're looking for, and again, if somebody, I've had people, where kind of come on a call and, you spend 15, 20 minutes with them, 30 minutes with them, and you're just like, this isn't for me. This program isn't for you. I don't feel like I'd want to work. So I just thank them for their time and give them maybe like some suggestions as to where they could go, because if somebody's, for example, not even remotely willing to look at the law of attraction, my work won't appeal to them. So it's a foundation. If we're not looking to how we vibrate, what match we're bringing in by our vibrational match, my work wouldn't be for them. But if you are in that place, and if you are ready to be soul inspired and you are ready to empower your own story, then my program knocks it out of the park for you guys.
So where do they access that?
You can go to my website, wisdomoftheakashics.com, and there's a booking option there. You hit the booking option, and the very top one says free soul discovery session. And then you book that with me, and it'll take an hour out of my calendar. I allow for so many of them a week, etc. And yeah, that's how you get it. Just go right on there. There is a questionnaire that you have to answer. It's about, 10, 11, 12 basic questions, just where you're at, this and that. And
so
that
again,
as a requirement.
The website is wisdomoftheakashics.com. I just typed it in here to the chat box, but I'm not seeing it for some reason. Do you want to go and type it in? Maybe Rob can type it in. Or you can type it in, Diane.
I see my box, but I don't see any of the comments.
In the chat box? There's a ton of comments in here.
Go right to this link here, actually.
Wisdomoftheakashics.com. This one says /booking. Oh, that opens up a whole new link. That's a whole new interesting thing. I've never seen that before. It popped up right in the video. Okay, so wisdomoftheakashics.com. You'll find a booking link on there where they can register and get a free breakthrough session with you. There's a link. Thanks you for posting, Rob. For some reason, I seem to be bumped out of the chat box, chat room. Well, listen, this is an incredibly interesting conversation, and obviously highly, a conversation that everyone wants to know. What the heck is my soul here to do in this world? And how can I, eliminate all of the excuses, all the, self-doubt, all of the poverty, vows to please other people, all the crap that's holding me back from really having this expansion. And, with as little amount of wake-up calls as possible. A lot of women here are saying that they've just, broken up with some, toxic relationships in the last couple of years, and they're starting to live for themselves now, which is awesome. Changing their stories. A lot of people are asking, people are saying this is thank you both for this webinar. I love it. It's really full of great information. So Victoria's got a great question. Have you ever met anyone that you did not see any gifts that they have?
No. People that aren't ready for them, people that don't want to step up to them, own them, acknowledge them, but not that they didn't have any. Absolutely not. Every soul is absolutely birthed with gifts. We are birthed with gifts. We also in the Akashic Records, just to add to what we get gifts. So we get told that what our awesome sauce is and that 50% of the pie, so to speak. But we actually do choose a theme for this lifetime. The theme is incarnation specific. So it's what am I going to do in this lifetime? So you have a theme that you may be operating from. So for example, one of the ladies that I worked with, her theme was pleasure. That's the theme she chose to experience in this lifetime. And when I told her that in the records, she was like, when I was a kid, I was always about joy and happiness and fun. And her mom used to say, not everything's meant to be fun. And she would be like, humbug, And so it was so fitting. And it's like, so now how do you fully express in that? So if she has to find pleasure for her real greatest soul story to show up, she actually has to have pleasure in her story. And so those are the kinds, so we get a theme and we also specialize in something. And so we get told what soul specializations you chose, what theme you chose, and then your inherent natural gifts are what you're birthed with into the universe. So that's that 50% of the pie, so to speak, or you know, yeah, basically it's the two main ingredients that we have, and then the rest are just this, you know, the little parts that make up the whole cake, so to speak.
Well, you've got me curious. I tell you what, this has been a phenomenal interview, Diane, with a ton of amazing information. And yeah, I believe that we all come here for a purpose. I absolutely 1,000% agree. My purpose is definitely to inspire people. That is my gift. I am here to inspire others. I got that really clear. I just never believed I could make money for it, with it. And then when I decided, well, how can I do that? I asked myself a question: how can I make money inspiring people? It all showed up. So I agree. We are all here to do something. We all have a purpose. And I'm going to highly encourage you, if you've enjoyed this interview and you want to get to know Diane a little bit better, find out more about her programs, find out what's really in store for you in the Akashic Records, to really help you uncover your soul purpose. I know a lot of people here are posting some wonderful questions here in the chat box. People saying, what is my soul's purpose? How can I discover it? Book a call here with Diane. She's offering some free space, which is really generous of you. So thank you, Diane, for doing that here today, for everyone here on the call. Thank you. This has been, I took some great notes, and I know there are a ton of people here. People are saying, thank you, Dan, love your passion. This is it's fantastic. I was not really into it at first. However, this is great. So some people were like, I don't know about this.
I love the honesty.
Yeah, Rob says, fantastic webinar, ladies. I'm inspired for sure. A lot of people enjoying this. So awesome sauce. Thank you, Diane. I invite everyone again to go and check her out. She's a rock star. Her website again is called Wisdom of the Akashics. And I want to thank you, all of you rock stars who are here watching, who are here live, who are posting questions, comments. Even if you're watching this replay, I say this every week. I really do mean it. 90% of success is just showing up. You show up, you get one piece of nugget, one aha moment. It can totally, radically, dramatically transform your life and your business. And that's really the intention of this live weekly webinar series is to inspire you every week to really live your dreams and live your goals and rock your business if that's, what you're here to do. Again, thank you, Diane, and thank you, everyone, for being here. And welcome. Come back next week. We have another great webinar series. Again, my name is Vanessa Simpkins from takeyourpowerbacknow.com. Wishing you guys all an amazing day.
Thank you. It was awesome, Vanessa. Thank you. Thank you, everyone that attended.
Awesome, Diane. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Are you live still, Vanessa?